No sirens. I don't think it'll matter. People know we're downtown.
Okay, so now we're back. Yeah,
Okay.
I've been just live streaming everything because it makes it so much easier. I can go in and just edit to snip off the extra stuff at the beginning. Otherwise, I have to download it from Zoom and then upload it to our YouTube channel. This way is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And then we have it there where Zoom ultimately deletes everything. So we were giving people links to recordings that no longer existed. So
Oh, that's a problem.
not a good thing. So that's why we've been putting them on the YouTube channel, and then we link them to the website. So if people go to our website, they can get both live and recorded webinars.
Oh, good.
So that's good.
So if we need to send this to anyone.
So you will be recorded for posterity. So I'm going to go ahead and start the webinar and let people start coming in.
All right.
And we'll get moving. Okay. I'll wait till about a dozen people or so come on, and then I'll get started. Most people will have heard our little spiel before. So welcome to those of you who are logging on. I'm going to wait a couple minutes and we'll get started. So relax. If you have your lunch, go ahead and enjoy it. We will be sending out a copy of the slides and a link to the recording. Okay, so welcome everybody, and we appreciate your spending your lunch hour with us. I'm sure you will find this session very enlightening, and hopefully you'll get an idea of some of the resources that are available to you through the Cleveland Public Library. But first, I would like to give you a little background about SCORE. We are a Cleveland chapter of SCORE. My name is Anita Kayat, and I am a SCORE mentor. Our mission is to foster vibrant small business communities through mentoring and education. We hope that every person who wants to start a business or has a business gets the resources and support they need to be successful. We know that small businesses really drive the economy. Over 90% of businesses are small businesses. And in the Cleveland area over the last few years, the small business community has really revitalized the economy. So we're made up of approximately 85 volunteers. SCORE is the largest network of free volunteer small business mentors. We are all across the nation. There are over 10,000 of us. So if you have a business that we don't have a mentor in Cleveland that really has the same background in the industry or area that you are interested in, we can call on one of those other 10,000 and find you a mentor who will work for you. We have people from all walks of life that come to SCORE. We have 10% of our entrepreneurs are veterans, and over 50% are women, which is really exciting. Women are taking over the economy, and we're excited about that. So the things that SCORE offers, we offer mentoring, mostly doing it remotely now. We offer webinars, and one of our greatest resources is our website. I encourage you to go to our website, www.cleveland.org, .score.org, excuse me, cleveland.score.org. You will find a list of all our upcoming webinars that you can register for, and you will also find recorded webinars. And in the next few days, one of them will be the webinar that you're attending today. So our services are free. We get funding from the Small Business Administration, as well as a lot of organizations in Cleveland that want to support small businesses. So we don't charge for our services. This is a snapshot of our website. If you go here, you can sign up for a mentor. You can look at the workshops and browse the library, which contains all kinds of tools and templates for various plans, your business plan, marketing, finance. There are also resources like how to find an attorney or an accountant, funding issues, lots of good material. So take your time and go to the website, take a look at it. So I am going to stop sharing and turn it over to our guests from the Cleveland Public Library. And if you want to introduce yourselves and get started.
Let's get this together. There we go. You see the slides? Hi, everyone. Welcome to our probably not typical, but our SCORE presentation on business research at the library. My name is Sarah Dobransky. I'm the General Research Collections Manager. I have, aside from business, I am government documents, social sciences, and science and technology. So if you come downtown and you go to any of those departments, you might see me. With me, I have Sandy Whitmer, our Senior Business Librarian. Have anything to introduce?
I've been in this department for 30 years, and so I've got a pretty good background in our resources, and I'm looking forward to sharing some of those with you today.
So I'll start off the first half because I know about business resources, but Sandy really is our expert. So she'll show you how to do the nitty-gritty stuff. So a little bit about us, if you have not heard, we are a very, very old institution. We were formed in 1869. We had our 150th anniversary a few years ago with a huge festival downtown, and then COVID hit and everything kind of stopped. But we are back open. Actually, we've been open for quite some time. We have 27 branches around. We have our main library down here, and we also have a branch in Public Hall. I'm pointing behind me because that's where City Hall is. So if you need local city information, old statutes or ordinances, any sort of property stuff, go to them, they're great. We are considered one of the top public research institutions in the nation. We have millions of materials. Our photograph collection alone has about 1.5 million, I want to say, photographs. And you won't find this, I will say, anywhere in Ohio. We're pretty on par with like Boston and Chicago, and those are kind of our, I don't want to say competitors, but our the people who are comparables. There we go.
Yeah.
We have stuff that you won't find anywhere else. We have 150 databases, which the day I counted them was right before we switched. So there might be 149 because one of those got rolled into the candidate information. And we have access to LinkedIn, Gale courses, which are actually full college-style courses where you have a time you take them and a professor, and it's great. Not as in-depth or specific as LinkedIn, but there's something for everyone. And then also Rosetta Stone. So if you need to learn another language and you don't want to pay, you can get Rosetta Stone through the library for free. We are also a Patent and Trademark Resource Center, which is a formal partnership with the USPTO. And you can come in and do all the research that you need for your patents. So if you have an idea and you want to see if anyone else has done it, or your trademark, if you are either selling online or you have stores in multiple places and you qualify for a federal trademark, we can help you with your search. And our goal there is to get you to the point where then we can turn you over to an attorney. So if you find out that you can't do it, then you have just saved a bunch of money by doing the search yourself and then having an attorney tell you, well, no. So that's just a little bit about who we are and what we do. And this photo is one of my favorites. It's actually the central staircase in this building here, which goes all the way up from the lower level through the roof, actually, because it goes past the 10th floor. So why would you bother coming down? First of all, we're not your average neighborhood library branch. We do technically have story time, but this building does not really have a lot of kids in it. We are focused on research, and we have individual departments for specific topics, and a lot of libraries don't have that. You might have some focused libraries like a law library or a business library, but we have all of it here. We have our own government documents department, which is pretty rare. Like I said, we have business, science, history, we have a whole map department, photograph department. So all of that is down here. And all of our resources are free. And it sounds, I don't want it to sound kind of kitschy, like, oh, come on, and everything's free. But you don't realize what you have access to until you start discovering, oh, I didn't know you have this, I didn't know you have that. And that's probably the number one thing people tell us when they come in. I had no idea. So come on in, discover what we have. We have in-person appointments with some of our subject experts, and we have reservable space. This is something I've been trying to push. If you have a meeting that you have to have with a client, you don't have a space for them to go, you can reserve a room in one of our either our conference rooms or some other spaces. And during business hours, it's free. If you want to have food and beverage, you have to pay for custodial charges. But it's a good way to get someone in if you don't have the space or you don't have anywhere for them to go, as opposed to renting one of those like by the day or by the week places that are getting pretty popular. So what are we going to do today? We said research, that's a pretty broad word. We're going to look at industry profiles, demographic data, competition, and sourcing materials, which is something that I don't think a lot of people realize that they can do at the library also. And these are the databases we're going to cover. If we have time for Gale legal forms, we will. I doubt it, but I can send some information on that before we're finished. Everything that we're going to do does require a library card, which is obviously free. And if you don't have one, not a problem. On our homepage, you just click on where it says library cards. I don't know if you can see my mouse up here, and you'll get a link to an application. If you already have a card and you haven't used it in a while, you can renew it online. But if you don't, if you apply for a card, all you need to do is live in Ohio, work in Ohio, go to school in Ohio, have business in Ohio, have some connection to Ohio, and you can get a library card. It's not for Cleveland specific. It's anywhere in the state. And if you don't want to come in, not that we don't, want you to be here, but you can get an e-card, which will give you access to all of those databases and our online learning and ebooks. You just can't check a book out until you come in physically. So let's start talking about research. So today we're going to kind of introduce or go over some of the critical information that you can collect with access to our databases. So first of all, think about your small business, and there's some questions that you want to ask. So who do you plan to serve? What type of customer do you have? How many people? Who is there? What are their demographics like? And then other factors that we'll get into some of the other databases. Who is your competition? And if you have a physical product, where are you getting your supplies from, or are you making them yourself? And then also looking at some market trends. So we will first go over knowing your product. And that might sound kind of obvious, but there's several different ways to look at it and to really know what you're doing. So do you have a physical product, or do you have a service that you're offering? And if you have a physical product, how are you selling it? Are you selling it online? Do you have a store? Do you plan to work out of your home? Are you doing it like a home-based catering? Are you wholesaling? So if you are, growing vegetables to send to a restaurant, what are you doing? And to know exactly who you are and what you do. And once you figured all of that out, we're going to start defining that business. And the standard across all of North America is something called NAICS, the North American Industry Classification System. This is from the US government, the Census Bureau, and it's used, excuse me, mostly in statistics, but every agency uses it. My apologies. It's also used in government contracting. So anytime that you need to interact with the government or find information on business, you'll use a NAICS code. It replaced the SIC, but a lot of people still use SIC. So how are they created? NAICS, and I tried to get the big list of numbers, but my table wouldn't fit in my slide. So I said, I'll just talk about it. It starts off with a 2-digit, and each 2 digits represents an industry. So you have like agriculture, food, I'm trying to think of all the various industries, mining, construction, probably housing. So all of those start off as a 2-digit number, and then the more numbers you add on to it, the more specific it gets. So who uses them? Pretty much everyone. All of the resources that we're going to show you today use NAICS codes. And why should you care about that? Because once you know what your business does and you find out what your NAICS code or codes could be, then you can use that to really tailor your research. Instead of looking for all kinds of restaurants all over the place, maybe you have a food truck and you want it to be just food trucks. So find the NAICS code for that and then plug that in. And again, one code does not fit all. You might be doing multiple things. You might be doing something, inventive, like you have a makeup studio and a bar. So you'll have a few different things on there. And this is why I wanted you to look and see exactly what you're doing. Excuse me. The NAICS code, and you can see that 72 was the first 2 numbers for food. And then as we get more and more drilled down, to just get a full service restaurant, that's 722511. But there are other types of things in there that are very different. The government does this, they split it up. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to you, Sandy. But sometimes I'm just scratching my head. So if you have just a general full service restaurant, that's one thing. But if you are selling snacks, like an ice cream store, that's another thing. If you're doing delivery service, that's completely different. If you are providing, what does it say, food where people just, kind of grab and go, that's a different NAICS code altogether. So some of these might fall under what you do. Some of these might be kind of complementary. And then we're going to look at demographics. Typically, demographics are population, your age. I mean, you all know this. I hope you know this. But learning about the people around you and the people who you plan to serve. And the people around you might not necessarily be the people you plan to serve. Knowing that neighborhood and getting some idea of who they are and what they do. And we already talked about the federal government as to what they collect. Most of the databases that we use get their stuff from the federal government. The reason why we have them is because it's so much easier. They take that mash of spreadsheet nonsense and put it into something that is far more searchable, far more user-friendly, and makes more sense. Again, the information in our databases are on one place. For the government, you have to go across different agencies. So you have your census information, but then you have to go over to like the Bureau of Labor for their statistics and go across a few different agencies. So the databases have everything all in one ready for you to use. Federal government, again, is free, but it's not easy to find. And I'll tell you that as a government librarian, it is definitely not easy to find. It takes a very, very long time, and you hope that what you have is what you need. And they only have public data based on what's reported. So our online databases have non-public data. They can be costly if you are, in a firm or something, but that's where you come to us. You can get those from us for free. And I am going to mention specific information. So the American Community Survey from the Census Bureau, again, is not the easiest to use. In fact, it's probably one of the most difficult things to work with thanks to their new website. But you can really, really, really drill down to find out things like, what kind of internet plan does this neighborhood have? So if you're opening up a store that sells, I don't know, cell phone equipment, you might want to make sure that most of the people in that area have a data plan or have a cell phone in general. Are you looking to see if, someone has a home equity loan? Are you working in the construction industry? So if you want to really, really drill down, you can give me a call. I can help you navigate this. Again, it's not something that's easy to use, but this particular information we won't have in our databases, or at least not that drilled down. The other option is our statistical abstract. It used to be from the government. Now it got bought by ProQuest, one of our big publishers, and you can find a table for everything, especially consumer spending. The only bad thing about the stat abstract is that it's almost all federal. You can't get some state information, and getting all the way down to a metropolitan statistic area is not common in most of those tables. So if you're looking for household spending on appliances, you might not be able to see Ohio, let alone Cleveland. But it will give you an overall idea of how we're doing across the US. And as I said, household spending examples, just knowing what you're doing and what the people around you are spending their money on. Are they going out to concerts? Are they spending money on, wine? Are they buying a bunch of clothes? So if you know how much they're spending on these things, then you can kind of tailor what you do in your business. And finally, we're also going to go over supply information. And I don't think that that's something people quite think about, especially when the library why would I go to the library to find out, where I can get eggs for my bakery? Well, because we have a bunch of directories and databases that will tell you who in the area has it. So instead of you trying to figure out, oh, well, what if I just try this one or that one? You can find somewhere that's close. You can also find, something that's international. We have access to a lot of stuff, surprisingly a lot of stuff. So if you need something for your business, if you need equipment, especially if you need marketing, professional websites, social media accounts, that's one of the #1 things we've been asked about that a lot of small business owners don't get is how do I market my product? Because I have a website or I have a Facebook account, but I don't know what to do with it. So all of those things, if you want to find someone to help you with that, we can do, or we can find it for you. And the last thing we're going to touch on are market trends, which I think you can find in almost all of our databases. They'll have something about the industry, but just to keep that in mind. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, and we're going to go to, well, I hate this little bar up here. Here we go. All right.
Okay. So Yeah, cover a lot of ground there, and I'll be showing you some of our databases and how to actually get at some of that information. Whenever you're going to use databases, you have to start out in our homepage, which is cpl.org, and we're going to come over.
We can't hear you. We can't hear Sandy.
Is that better?
No, can't hear you.
We could switch spots.
All right. We'll switch here. Not on mute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I moved 1 foot to the left. Okay.
Okay, good enough.
So, so we start all of our database searching on the library's website, which is cpl.org. And we come over here to the research bar and click on databases. And unfortunately, the first thing that we're seeing now is Cranes Cleveland is temporarily unavailable. That's a link that takes you right to their website, but we can get around that.
Yeah, actually, all we're seeing is the screen that says, let's go.
Okay.
Are we online?
Okay, now we are where you want to be.
All right, so I'm not going to go backward here, but so you can see that we have databases in a lot of different categories, and we're going to focus here on the business and consumer information ones. But you may also find yourself needing to look for newspaper articles from the Plain Dealer or the New York Times, or even some regional ones, and you could explore those down there. I'm going to go back up to the business and consumer information category here. And this is just an alphabetical list of the business databases that we subscribe to. You'll see that some of them will say CPL card holders. That means that you have to have a Cleveland Public Library card as opposed to one of the other CleveNet libraries, because only Cleveland Public Library subscribes to this particular database. There are others that don't have that designation. Some of them are subscribed to by the State Library of Ohio, so everyone in the state has access. And then there are others like Consumer Reports here, you see it says CleveNet card holders. So whenever you're offsite trying to get into these, you click on the database, and it's going to prompt you for your library card and your PIN. And almost rolled right past it here. Oh, I need to mention another one here, Wall Street Journal. It's hard to get full text of Wall Street Journal articles online, but we do subscribe to that, so you can get them right there. Okay, the first one that we're going to look at is the Small Business Reference Center. And it has some really good basic information about starting a business. Business areas. It's a little slow. There we go. So if you have questions about accounting or employee issues or legal issues, management topics, any of those things, you can click on these and that'll lead you to articles about. Eventually you'll get to the articles, but don't have time to go into all of those. Another category is business basics. These are pretty much, I'm not exactly sure what the difference is between these and the business areas, but you might see the information is arranged a little bit differently, so that might be helpful to you. Another category is industry information by small business type. And this one is particularly useful. You don't have to know any kind of code for these. We're going to use restaurants as an example all the way through these. So I'm just going to come down here and click on that. And there are links to articles there. And there are also
industry reports. The publisher is Barnes. And you can click through, but ultimately you're going to have to click on either PDF or HTML. So we'll just do that from this list. And you see we've got a 185-page report on the full service restaurant industry. So all kinds of useful information here. So as you try to work on a business plan, you'll find out all the detailed information that you're going to need, and a lot of it you'll be able to find in reports like this. Okay, actually I'm going to click on the logo here, get me back to that first page faster. This one's a little bit wonky, getting around in there. Another category that's very useful is a startup kit and business plans. So it has a variety of choices within here. I wanted to show you a sample business plan though, because that's something that we get asked for a lot. Okay, so I don't know what that designation is up there, but it doesn't seem to get in the way of anything. So I'm just going to type in restaurants and search. So they have 3 business plans having to do with restaurants. And here's now, again, just go ahead and click on the PDF from that first screen. So this is from an actual company. And you can see all the different categories of information that they needed and how they put it together. If it happens to be just exactly the same kind of idea that you had, then you might be able to crib a lot more information from them. But so that's useful too. And the other thing I wanted to point out on this website, if it will let me get out of here. Back to that home page again. These popular sources that they have listed down here, they're all from the publisher Nolo, and they're a very well-respected publisher in the library world, at least. And so they almost everything that they have has the legal aspect of selling a business, or like here it says here, nonprofits tax guide. And these are the entire books. We carry most of them here at the library too, but if you just need to look up something real quick, you don't need a whole book, you know, either way, you can get at it from this website.
They are for every level, and especially the copyright and patent information. We keep them on hand in a reference book, and I can just grab one and go to what I need, and they're written by, one of them is written by an attorney who's also like a reference professor. So they're not, oh, just look at this.
Okay, we can't hear Sarah now.
She's in the wrong chair now.
Yeah.
She really likes the Nolo publisher. That was all. So sorry you couldn't hear that part.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next database that I want to cover. That was not it. Here we go. Okay. We got into the different. So actually, I want to go back one spot here. We'll start back from the home page, get back to the databases. Business again. And the first one here is Business Insights. They have a lot of information on the first screen here that you can just browse. I find it just kind of messy and probably unnecessary, at least for what we're trying to do today. So we can, in the search box, we can just go ahead and even type in the the NAICS code, or you could type in the words, but I want to go straight to the industry information. So in this case, using the number is going to work better. So I can just go ahead and click on full service restaurants there. And this is an industry profile. If you're looking at the big picture here, you can see a global list of top companies by revenue, or you can change it to different countries. We'll just look at the United States one. So you may recognize a lot of these companies. You'll see quite a few of them that are listed as private companies. There's no revenue listed, and that's not a mistake. That's just because privately owned companies don't have to report financial information to the federal government like the publicly owned companies do. So that makes it that much harder to find good information about them, at least as far as financial information goes. Over here on the left, we have a variety of industry reports. Depending on the industry that you're looking at, you may find more or less information, and there's quite a bit on the on the restaurant industry. I'm going to show you one of these Plunkett reports. This is actually another publisher that we use a lot. We have a lot of their the physical books in the department, but you can get quite a bit of theirs online as well. And so that's just like, looking at an ebook, you get full access here. So again, all kinds of financial information as well as trends and other useful information that may be handy for starting your business. Another one I want to show you is the U.S. Industry Report. This one is actually put together by the database vendor, Gale. So this is a pretty general look at what goes on in the industry. You notice they're pretty careful to use the dates in there, and that's what you need to pay attention to that as well, because sometimes it sounds like oh, this must be the absolute most recent information, but sometimes it's not. And as we know, things have changed a lot in the restaurant industry in particular over the last few years because of COVID. So some of these current conditions that they're mentioning might not actually be so current, even though they, a few years ago, they would have, having information that was a year or two old would have been just fine. And the other useful thing I want to show you at the bottom of this one is that they have a good list of sources here, and it comes, sometimes those are from articles that appear full text in this database, and sometimes they're from websites, and you can copy and paste the URL into your browser and go right to the source, and that might give you some more of the details that you need. Okay. Okay, so back to the industry page here. I'm going to scroll down past where we were before. This database is really good about making sure that you don't miss out the fact that you can get to the same information about a million different ways. But here's the section for industry articles. So you can, and they have them split up by trade journals, or academic journals, or magazines. Most of the articles in here are full text, though not all. There's also a section here for market share and rankings. Sometimes if you're looking up a really niche kind of business, that there's no really good NAICS code for it, or just, there's not much information on the industry at all. You may find that there may be one of these oddball little lists that somebody put together on here. So I don't know, there seems to be a lot going on with coffee chains here. So just click on one of these. And there's not a lot of detail on these mostly, but if you're yeah, sometimes it's just the right thing for what you're doing. Let's see here. There's so much more that I could show you in this website, but I think that's about what we have time for today. Let's see, and now we'll go on to the next database. Again, you know, get there through the library's website in the business categories. And this one used to be known as Reference USA. So if it looks kind of familiar, but you're not familiar with the data axle term, that's why. We're going to start out with the US businesses database. And just a quick search can be helpful if you know the name of the company that's in the industry that you're looking for. It can be a kind of a quick and dirty way to get at the NAICS code too. So I'm just going to search for Mabel's Barbecue, which is over here on East 4th. And okay, so there's apparently a Mabel's Barbecue that's unrelated to it out in Vegas. So we can click on the name of it, but I also wanted to show this corporate tree column. This can be really handy when, you know, to find out the structure of the business. You're like, okay, so in case you didn't know, this is actually owned by Michael Simon Restaurants. And you can get information, you know, on the corporate, at the corporate level, or you can select the individual restaurant. In this case is what we want to do. So because this is a privately owned company, there's not a lot of detail here. So we have some of their contact information, some job listings if anyone's looking. You see in the industry profile, there's the NAICS code again. And this is one of those databases that still uses the SICs. So I guess they're not going to give up until everybody else does on that. And depending on the industry, again, sometimes you may discover that there's an SIC code that's a little bit more specific for what you're doing than a NAICS code, or vice versa. So in this database, you can look at either way. A little bit more information on this restaurant. 7 employees, $358,000 local sales volume. How long they've been around and on this database. This kind of information on privately owned companies is, I mean, the database, you know, the data axle people actually contact these companies at least once a year, but the companies don't have to actually tell them anything. So they may volunteer that, oh yeah, we have 8 employees right now, or we've got 15 or whatever. But if they don't care to share that information, the data axle has their, you know, their algorithms that kind of decide for you. Like, well, for a restaurant in this market that has, you know, about this square footage, this is approximately the number of employees they would need, and you know, what their likely sales are, that kind of thing. Again, we've got business expenditures here, but these are estimated annual expenses. But you know, so even if that's not exact for what's going on at Mabel's Barbecue, that can still give you an idea if you're interested in starting a similar kind of restaurant. That, okay, so those might be the kind of expenses that you're looking at. And then we have a couple of charts here that show sales volume or employee size by year. And this makes sense that there was nothing before 2016, because that's, I believe, when they started. And there's not much in the business history there. I guess it would track if they'd moved. Another part that might be useful here is the competitors report. So in this case, I recognize that a lot of these restaurants are they're located very close to Mabel's, either right on the same street or certainly in the same neighborhood. So that can give you an idea of how many, yeah, who the competitors are, and you can click through on any of theirs to see similar information. Okay, so that's, oh, all right. Need to do a new search here. We're going to create a list of restaurants in Cleveland. So we're going to do the advanced search tab. We'll go by keyword. And under geography, we're going to go by city and state. And you'll see here that you can, this actually prompts you to search by SIC. You have to change it over to NAICS if you want to do it that way. I just want to show you something interesting here under the SIC. And just, you can either go by the code numbers or the words. And just type restaurants here. Okay, so this code, I believe, is the equivalent of the one that of the NAICS code we've been looking at. But all the rest of these, you can see all the different types of things that you might not have even considered having to do with the restaurant industry. I love this, that there's actually one for restaurant menus. I heard that it's an industry of its own. But down farther, they have, I don't know how well you can see this, but it says related matches. And they've got subcategories: French restaurants, German, American. I think I went past, no, I didn't. So here's barbecue restaurants. So this is an interesting example. So I'll leave that set at barbecue restaurants for the moment. For the city and state, you can come down here and type in the city, but not the state. I used to do that incorrectly. If you put the state on here, it'll go into a search that goes on and on forever. So lots of Clevelands in this country. So notice I clicked on, and so it's over in the selected box here. And just to see how many we've got, we can update the count. So we've got 20 barbecue restaurants listed in Cleveland. And so I clicked on that, and we're expecting these are in alphabetical order, though you could sort these by other ways too. But it's like, where is Mabel's? Mabel's Barbecue should be on there because we just saw it, but there was actually nothing in the Mabel's Barbecue listing that showed that it was specifically a barbecue restaurant. So even though you can search by this SIC, you can see that by this example that you're not going to get a complete list of all the barbecue restaurants because we already know of one big one that's missing. So this was kind of a good example of how hard it is to get good information in various industries, specifically in restaurants. I'm going to revise the search, and I'm going to click on the barbecue restaurant thing, get rid of that. And we're going to look at more broadly under the NAICS. And again, I could have typed in the code, but we'll stick with restaurants is easier. And we've still got Cleveland, Ohio listed there. So I'm going to update the count. Now we've got 1,094. And let's take a look at those. So this, you can see there's 44 pages of information here. But it's like, okay, so these are all over the place. you know, if you're kind of trying to get a sense for where you would want to start your restaurant, it can be helpful to look at a map. So this feature is kind of neat. This heat map. You can see they're clustered around downtown, but as you move in further and you have to use the plus sign here, that's kind of a pain. You can get down to the level where you can see individual. Okay, so there's this gourmet soup shop with some basic information about them. 0 sales dollars, so I guess they're very small. But if you have an idea of like, well, I was thinking about targeting a particular area, you know, if you're not familiar with that area already, this can help, you know, give you an idea of, you know, like, okay, I want to pursue this because there are a lot of restaurants in this area, but there's no barbecue restaurant here. So, you know, this could be a good fit with everything else that's already there. Okay, oh, and another important feature is that you can download the list. Oh, yeah, I should know this by now. Whenever you're downloading or printing from this database, you have to select the which records you want. You could go like, I don't want these 7-Elevens here, but it's easier to just go ahead and select, go on to the next. I think it lets you do 100 at a time. 100 records selected. So then you would go ahead and click on download and it'll automatically pop them into an Excel file. And then you'd have to go back and select the next batch. But then that can be an easier way for you to manipulate the data and make a useful list for yourself. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and as Sarah was just pointing out, there's another good use for this database is, you know, if you're looking for suppliers. You saw in there the restaurant equipment in the, you know, the keyword searching, you know, by industry. You can search for manufacturers of the equipment that you're going to need, or the providers of the, you know, whatever food. You're going to need a lot of cheese if you're going to have a pizza place, you know, so you can search for any of those kinds of companies in here.
Are you open to a question?
Sure.
Okay, one of our, Mr. Brooks writes, he's in the construction industry and deals with natural gas infrastructure. His company will subcontract for Dominion Energy. What kind of useful information can be helpful to a startup subcontract?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. This would be something I would really need to talk to the person about, because there are so many different angles to go on this. I don't know if he's just getting started. You know, I don't know if market trends would be more helpful or looking at competitors. I encourage you to give us a call and we can, or come in and we can, yeah, go over that with them.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, and I realize we are running really low on time here. I'm going to show you the U.S. consumers so we can get at some of the demographic and lifestyle information. We'll go straight into the advanced search. And again, we're going to go city and state. Back to Cleveland. And so So if you're going to start a restaurant, you know, just like any other business, you need to try to identify who's your target audience. And so sometimes using this lifestyle categories can be helpful. Though I looked through every one of these and did not find anything, you know, no restaurant category, but I suppose that's because most people go out to restaurants, so that's not a very unique feature. But if you were perhaps looking at trying to make a restaurant that's dog friendly, or you have a dog patio, you could click here on pets and animals and actually select dogs. And this will help identify people who are dog owners and might be interested in coming. So let's see. So we got 12,292. It's still a big list. Something else to consider is you might want to change that to 1 per household, because this database will list, you know, if there are 3 people living in the house, even if they're all the same family, it's going to list them 3 times. So we shorten that up a bit. And view results. Again, you can do a heat map to see where all these dog owners are. Quite a few of them, but it looks like there's the west side is going to be a little bit more. Anyway, so you can click down to the same level, you know, down to the neighborhood level and see where people are living who are dog owners who might be interested in coming to your restaurant with the dog patio. Let's see. You can also download these files. Yeah, and let me show you I'm going to cut off this database right here because I need to show you real quick the emergent intellect. This is similar in the kind of information that you can find to the data axle. You can look up industry information as well as consumer information, demographics. So I guess I won't really go into that. We probably should leave it open for if anybody else has any questions. Because clearly we have a lot more information that we could have shared.
I think you've given us a good overview of what's available, and it's amazing how much data there are that businesses can use, especially market research, I think is wonderful. But even if you're writing a business plan, that insight gives you industry background, and it's just lots of good information.
Good. And we, like I said, we have more that's online as well as in book format, which is easier to share when you're here. So
Here's somebody's asking, what is the difference between a Cleveland library card and a CPL card?
Okay, so CleveNet is a consortium of libraries predominantly in Northern Ohio that Cleveland Public Library is part of. And so a lot of them subscribe to some of the same databases. That's just one of the things that we share. Subscriptions to databases. We also, if you have a card from any of those other libraries or the Cleveland Public Library, and you can request materials to be sent to you from any of the libraries without having to go through interlibrary loans. So you might get something from Sandusky in a week or so, just because they happen to have the only copy that's available right now or something.
How do you relate to the Cuyahoga County library system, if at all?
We actually do not at all.
Okay.
There have been attempts in the past, but at least as of now, it's still very much separate.
Okay. So a Cuyahoga County library card won't get you anything with CPL and vice versa, right?
Correct, but you're more than welcome to get cards with both systems.
Right, of course. I have those, by the way.
Good.
And I do use your databases and I think they're wonderful. So
Good.
can't thank you enough for spending your time and explaining things. It is really wonderful. We are going to be posting the recording on our YouTube channel and ultimately on our website. So we will be using it to refer our clients so they can understand what's available to them. And
Let me really quick show our last slide.
Okay, so here's our copy.
okay, so that way they have all of your contact information. Super. And can you send me a copy of your slides and we'll send those out along with the link to the recording?
Yes.
Okay, super. So we're getting lots of positive comments from our attendees. We appreciate very much your spending your time with us, and goodness, we may want to do this again. So thank you, Sandy and Sarah. It was wonderful. And to everyone who has attended,